Here is an example from Chapter 5 when we're looking at government policies, and the policy we're going to look at is taxes. And what happens to a competitive market that is already in equilibrium when the government steps in and imposes a tax. So in this case, we're going to look to see what happens when the government taxes consumers. So here is, in a sense, a 5-step process that we can follow to find the 3 items that we need most: the new equilibrium quantity, the price the seller receives, the price that the buyer pays. All right, so let's go through this step process. The first is to identify if this is a supply or demand issue. Well, if we're taxing the consumers are represented by the demand curve, so this is going to be a demand issue. And so we shift that curve. So we're going to take our demand curve, and we're going to cause our demand curve to shift down by the size of the tax using our School of Business ruler, SUU, School of Business, where dreams come true, is going to be step 2. Step 3 is we find where the new curve intersects with the old curve. So here's our new curve, our new demand equation, and that intersects with the old supply equation right here. We bring that down, and that's now our new market quantity when a tax is being imposed. So that is now step 3. Step 4 is we take that quantity and we put it into the original supply equation. So here's our original supply curve. We take that quantity, put in that supply equation, and using our School of Business ruler, School of Business, where dreams come true, this is going to be the price that the seller receives. Step 5, we take that quantity, we shift it, put it up into the original demand equation. We bring that across using our School of Business ruler, School of Business, where dreams come true. And this is the price that the buyer receives. And so this now tells us all the important points. So we find the optimal quantity by finding where the new lines intersect, put that price into our supply curve, and that finds the price to the seller. Then take that quantity and put it into the price of the original demand curve, and that tells us the price to the buyer. Now steps 4 and 5 can be switched. That's not a problem at all. But once we get QT, then we can do steps 4 or 5, whichever order makes the most sense. And so here's how we can find the market response to when government imposes a tax. And what it tells us is that the optimal quantity will decrease. There's less items that will be sold. The price that the buyers pay is going to go from P star up to a higher price, and the price that the sellers receive is going to decrease. And that total distance between these two prices, that there is the size of the tax.